Hello, welcome, my peoples, my bows and bow ties. I figured I'd just show this little backdrop a little longer before I come on camera. So, yeah, we're definitely still in winter conditions. Not as much snow out there, but it's cold. Hey, I'm back. Only for today, though, before I go back on this weird schedule that my husband and I flip flopped on. So, all right, let me bring up my stuff here. Okay, let me get my life together. We're going to be talking about delusional parents at middle age. Okay, so that's the topic. So before I get into it, I talk about three things. I talk about Black women, Black culture, and middle age, to include parenting, television shows, my situation, my little bald spot that's trying to grow back, I think. Um, Basically anything related to middle age, health, or something like that. But we're going to talk about middle age parenting today. So sometimes I have to get my hee-haws at other people's expense. All right. So if you joined or selected this video, you selected this thumbnail. I should probably take this off. It's like, no, I'm not delusional. Yes, you are delusional. Okay. So why did I do this? I always have a reason why I do some things. Maybe I should bring it to this one. Okay. That's the thumbnail. So, I don't think this is going to be long. I haven't done a morning live in a while, but I had to flip flop schedules today with my husband, so he took an earlier time frame, and I'm putting the kids on the bus. All right, let's get right on into it. My children play sports. Okay, so there. Let me rephrase that. 3 out of my 4 children play sports. Um, and when you play sports, there's a lot that goes into it. Okay, as a parent, for those of you who know, you know. Okay. I say this because when I say 3 out of my 4 children play sports, there's a reason why only the 3 out of 4 or 3 out of 4, which is totally fine. So let me start off like with this. Did you know? Oh, can you see me? Did you know that I am a recovering delusional parent? Now, I was only delusional for a slim period of time. But oh yes, I'm one of those people. Now, when I say this, it's because don't come over here, go over that way. Thank you, babe. So I say this because, sorry, I got my kids here, so I'm trying to do this. I say this because my oldest does not like sports. I could probably take this off. I'm sure you guys are done looking at. Are you guys done looking at this? Let me bring in my other self here. Did I? Did I bring myself back in? Okay, because I like to have 2 versions of myself. Okay, so my oldest, um, he does not play sports. He doesn't like sports. He doesn't play sports. He doesn't watch sports. He's just not a sports kid, and it's okay. So I used to think that by me putting him in sports, maybe we just hadn't found the right sport, which is okay to try different things. But then it hit me. I'm like, he doesn't like sports. He doesn't like contact. He doesn't like that kind of competition. And once I figured it out, I yanked my kid out of sports. I realized he liked to do other things like play the piano, whatever. But sports wasn't it. I was also delusional because that was my first child. Okay. So with my first child, in my mind, he was going to cure cancer. He was going to invent perpetual gravity or something. That's just where I was at with it. He's a very smart kid, just. But what I didn't realize is that he's kind of lazy. He's just a lazy kid. So you can't force your likes and your wants onto your kids. I have a point with this. So when I recognized that about my child, one thing I did do was once I realized this isn't it, I yanked him. I had to see him for where he was. It wasn't bad. He just was. He just had these different interests. Okay. And so once you figure that out, you foster that. You cannot force your children to be something who they're not. Hey, I'm live, so try to be quieter. Have a good day. Okay. So that's just where I'm at with it. Just leave it right there. Huh? Okay. So that's where I'm at with it. Just hurry up. Just hurry up and go. You're gonna have to open and close the door, and the alarm's gonna go off. Have a good one. Put your coat on. It's cold. So, with that being said, go ahead. Hurry up. So, with that being said, I think about what's going on when I am at these sporting events with my other kids. Baby, let me just say, let me keep it a buck. I just wanted to say that because I hear that a lot. And I don't even understand that. I don't even understand when people say, let's keep it a buck, right? Because a buck is $1. You usually say, let's keep it 100. So shouldn't it be like, let's keep it $100? Okay, maybe this other one is in the way. Let me remove that. I don't know. So I want to keep it a buck. I just feel like this. Let me go right here. When you have children who play sports, you recognize certain capabilities, certain talents, okay? And since my other three children, my three youngest children play several sports, I've sat through enough games and practices and everything like that. The interesting thing about that is you have the parents who have not come to terms with their children. They haven't come to terms. And I hear so many stories about how, like, my child just loves X, Y, Z. And I'm like, your child looks like they want to stab themselves in the eye. Stab themselves in the eye. That's what it looks like to me. They don't look interested. They don't look like they want to hustle. My door's still open. Don't come over here. What are you doing? All right. See ya. Grab your coat, please. So the children are sitting there on the sidelines. They are looking like they are miserable. You have children who are participating, but they think that they're like my child just loves X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, that doesn't look like the child who loves X, Y, and Z. But I don't say anything because it's not my kid. It's just not. But I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. Let me take this off. So I've seen these parents out there who proclaim that their child loves to do certain things. You want to know something else? There's also the parents out there who, now check this out. I've heard this so many times. Why are my ears itching? There are parents out there forcing their children to play sports. They'll say things like, well, my son or my daughter doesn't want to play X, Y, and Z, but I'm signing them up anyway because they don't want to do it. And I'm like, now that's at the rec level. Now, obviously, my kids are moving out of this rec level, like play club sports or whatever. So people who are playing club or something or travel or whatever, then they typically want to be there. Okay. So, for example, my daughter plays club lacrosse. So if you're playing club lacrosse, those kids typically want to be there. So anyway, you've got these parents who are like, well, I'm signing my kids up for so and so because they have to do something. So some of the kids have the talent to play, more advanced. Some of them don't. Some of them just don't want to. They have other interests. Maybe they want to knit. Maybe they want to sew. I don't know. Maybe they want to engage in more music endeavors. Maybe they want to explore their creative side. But what happens is these parents are forcing their kids to play. These parents are delusional, thinking that their kids are going to just, when you try to, that they're not going to, no. The parents are living through their kids. They are. They're living through their kids. They think that their kids, if they keep forcing their kids to play certain sports long enough, that they're going to love it. And all they're going to do is be resentful. So I see some of these kids out here at these events and practices and clinics and everything else, and they don't want to be there. But the parents are walking around thinking that their children love whatever it is. They're saying it. I'm like, mm-mm, mm-mm. Not only that, let's talk about the delusion. Let's go back to this delusion part. There are parents who believe their children are better than what they are. Now, let me tell you about my delusion for 1 second. I thought when my oldest was playing sports, when he was not performing, it was because he was not interested. No, he just wasn't good. My whole big thing was to give your best effort. Now, once I recognized that this was not for him, any sport really, I was like, okay, let's pull him out. The interesting thing was, I will say, he played a little bit of tennis. We had him in some tennis clinics a couple times. He's a lefty. 3 out of my 4 children are lefties. He was actually pretty decent, but he still didn't want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, you can't force it on your kids. Delusional parents. There are parents who are like, who never played sports. Now, granted, maybe I come from a different perspective. I played sports. My husband played sports in college, as he was a Division I recruit, actually. And we were both also, pretty smart people. So we recognize that, and I ran in college, but I went to a D3 school, so there was no scholarship, and I was too skinny at the time. So we recognize the amount of work and everything that goes into when you're playing a sport. There's a lot of dedication and practices and things like that. And so what happens is you either want to play or you don't. You either you cannot force it. But I'm watching these delusional parents forcing their kids to play, number one. Number two, they think their kids are better than what they are. And it doesn't mean that they're bad players. It might just mean either they're late developers, maybe they need a little bit more development or whatever. Heck, I still think all of my children need some development in some areas. Okay. I think when I look at these dingling parents out here pushing their desires on their children, okay, they don't understand. They don't understand that their kid either doesn't want to play, and they don't understand that maybe their kid doesn't have a particular, their talents aren't as strong as what the parent thought it was. They either want extra playing time, they think they should play certain positions. I've seen that one where they think that their children should be playing in certain positions. Mm-mm. I've seen it in multiple sports. I've seen it in soccer. I've seen it in lacrosse. I've seen it in basketball. I remember I was watching one of the games with one of my children. They had one child bringing the ball up. And let me tell you, no lies, no shade, but this is shady. That child got stripped maybe 100% of the time. But for whatever reasons, this child, and finally the coaches were like, I should probably not let this child handle the ball. That child wanted to handle the ball so bad, but the child, that's just not that child's skill set. But you've got parents putting these kids in these sports, not because the kids want to play, because the parents are making them play, especially at the rec level. Now, let me just say this about rec sports. I love rec sports, and depending on where you are, some rec sports are super strong, some are not. Where I am, you play rec for a period of time, and then you move into travel or club. Um, we try to keep our kids in rec as long as we can, and sometimes just because they can play um, travel or club, right? Doesn't mean they should if they're in other club or whatever sports, right? Because it does come too much. The point I'm making is rec is still a good space for kids. The problem is, as these kids are getting older, I'm looking at what these parents are doing. Maybe they have a child that needs to lose some weight and they're forcing the kid to play. The kid is miserable. The team is now miserable because the child isn't performing, but they can't say anything and they shouldn't. I don't believe in being mean girls and mean boys, but there's a lot that goes on. The coaches are forced to play kids that don't want to be there, that don't necessarily have any sort of talent. I mean, but rec is a place where everybody should be able to play. All I know is I'm looking at these parents, I'm watching them on the sidelines. They're yelling at their kids who don't want to be there. They're mad because their kids are not performing. Delusional parents. But then let's go on to the parent befriendship. Just put it in. Just put it in. This is my favorite one. You know, I see it for what it is. There are parents who will try to, what do I want to say? Befriend me. I don't I like for things to be organic. There are parents who try to befriend me because I think they want their children or child to be friends with one of my children. And a lot of that has to do with because if you have a child that is a standout, well, it's natural. They want their child to be friends with the other parent. I mean, sorry, with another child, and they want to befriend that parent. Well, because then they want their kids to play together. Because if you have a standout, well, then it helps sharpens their kid. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but I need it to be organic. So, friends of mine who've been in club sports and stuff like that, they put me on a game and I peeped a lot of it. They're like, okay, man, this is what you need to understand. You got parents out there who want their children to be certain things and do certain things and to be visible. And maybe their child is just not cut out for a certain position, maybe to play long term. I don't know. I don't even know what's going to happen with my children. But then what happens is if they think that your child is performing at a certain level, all of a sudden you've got parents who want to be friends. They want to be besties. They want to get together. Oh my child. All right. And this is my favorite one also. The fostering of friendships. This is the thing. The one thing about my children is they have their pockets of friends, and I like for it to remain balanced as much as possible. It is so much healthier that way because you're going to need friends outside of your sports friends. But you also have your sports friends is they understand what it's like when you're going to different tournaments or games and practices and clinics. They understand what it's like when you have that time commitment. They understand what it's like where you got to manage your school and your chores in your normal life in that sports life. So I believe that kids should have several groups of friends. I think it's healthier. I mean, as you get older, that those friendships are going to change. Okay. Hopefully you keep a couple of your older friends. I believe in healthy balancing of friendships. But I watch how some of these parents are trying to force friendships. I don't do that. I don't do it. I don't force my children to play with other kids. I see that a lot. These delusional parents are out here like, well, if my child is it what did you it's okay. If my child is friends with this child and maybe they'll be seen by the what is that? You want organic, real friendships for however long they last. I think with my kids too, I try to keep them out of certain things as much as possible. They don't need to know about certain things. It's really important for them to just live their lives, have their friendships, play on their devices when they want to play on their devices in the games and stuff like that. And then they have their sports friends too. I just don't like forcing friendships. And these parents are out here delusional. I'm watching. Okay. I get the text messages, I get all of that. Now, I just happen to have 500 kids. So when you've got kids who are constantly fighting, they're constantly competing, there's something to be said for that, right? By the way, do you guys like my shirt? I'm an expert at everything. I'm experimenting with some things. I got my long, cute sweater on with some cute little heeled shoes and some pants. But I got a t-shirt on. Leave me alone. I'm advertising myself. Let me know if you guys want to see me wear some of the things. I probably didn't get a good shot. I'm gonna get a hat too. Anyway, when you are a parent of a child who plays sports, I know you see the shenanigans. You've either participated or you've watched. For the longest time, I was the parent who sat away from all the other parents. It was too much. Okay. I've learned that I can't really separate myself all the time. But I think the biggest thing is some of these parents are delusional. They either are forcing their kids to play when they don't want to play, they either think their kid has a certain set of talents that they don't have. They either think I'm a ding dong and don't recognize it for what it is, that they're only trying to befriend me because they want their child to be friends with my child or children. Or, or yeah. They're trying to foster friendships. They need to be organic. So the one thing I don't do with, especially with my daughter, especially this one, they're, I don't tell her about every single thing when every single parent is like, oh, why don't you this, that, and the other? She doesn't need to know. All she needs to do is just be who she is and have friendships with who she's going to have. And that's it. I'm not going to force her into new friendships. It has to be organic, it needs to be natural. But yes, anyway, so let me sum this up. I am a recovering delusional parent. Oh, yes. But only for a short period of time. I didn't try to like make friends and all stuff like that. But I did have my child playing a sport when he was just not coordinated and didn't want to be there. So why would I continue to force him to do something he didn't want to do? All right, so look, let me like holler at you guys for a second. Go ahead and just subscribe. I know you want to. I'm on other platforms. I don't post as regularly, but I am out there on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm probably a lot more interesting on Twitter when I do post. But go ahead, check it out. My handle is I am a bow always. Um, yeah, so go ahead and share this with your other aunties and your other middle aged friends. Okay. Share this with other people. I'm going to start having a conversation with some of these younger parents too, because it's going to get interesting. When I see some of the parents and watching them as they grow, when they have their children at some of these events. I say this because I know I'm getting off topic. I'm at the point now where my youngest children are like as old as some of these other parents' oldest children, because I'm finally at the point where I'm getting to be one of the older parents now, whereas I used to be one of the younger parents. So these other parents, as they're coming up, I'm just sitting there watching and just watching how all this goes down. And, some of us older ones who've been down this road before, we're just kind of like, we don't get involved. If anything, half the time we don't even talk. We're just kind of like off in the corner or in our car or something doing our own thing. But anyway, yes, go ahead and subscribe. You know you like me. I've seen some of you started subscribing. That's great because I'm an entertaining person, at least in my own mind. Why? Because I could be delusional. All right, so look, let me get off of this thing because I got to make sure that my two boys that are upstairs, that I don't hear any movement going on. They need to be down here because we need to be out of here in about, what time is it? It's 7:15. We need to be out of here by like 7:40. This could be a yelling situation. All right, so look, let me go ahead. Oh, stop laughing. My daughter's over here just trying to keep herself from hee-hawing. All right, so look, go ahead and subscribe. All right, Black opinionated woman.